I've always had an interest in film, TV, and just, you know, stories in general. And when I was trying to explore a way of doing that, you know, working towards being able to do that for a living, I saw the MA Screenwriting here in Manchester. Obviously, being from Manchester, being able to be around there, it was perfect.
So my undergraduate was in Theatre and Performance Studies, which I did at Warwick, and I knew from that I wanted to write for some form of performance, and so directly after that I established my own theatre company. Then the pandemic hit and that was sort of a massive reset. Obviously my theatre company could not continue, and it made me reassess where I wanted to be as a writer. And that's when I started looking at Manchester, and I took a year out to kind of focus on. I did a lot of reading of film theory and like John Yorke's Into the Woods and things, and I thought, yeah, this is really what I want to be doing. Manchester stuck out to me because I felt like I wanted to write for TV, but it had that balance with film, so I could explore that, which has been really useful. But also, like any course I've looked at, it is industry focused.
Back in 2019, I actually first thought about this screenwriting course because I was more a mature student. I've been working in the film industry for quite a while, and I was initially doing a lot of camera work on film sets, but after a while I feel like, okay, I need to do something more creative, like directing and writing. And all my teachers or my mentors previously told me, in order to be a good writer, be a good director, you have to be a very good screenwriter. So I checked with I checked a lot of schools in the UK, and Manchester just came through, and it has a very specific screenwriting program.
So a current piece of work I'm doing is currently titled Blood Ties, and it's about queer women's experience during the AIDS crisis set in the 80s. It's a work that I actually pitched as a television show when I applied here, but there was something about it and the interest in the research that made me go, okay, actually I think this has got legs to be essentially my dissertation piece. And what I think has been really interesting in developing it is that when I began, it was all about this young woman and her experience talking to an AIDS patient, which is a big history that has really been lost because of its intimacy. It wasn't really documented, but lesbians and queer women in general were the ones who would sit with gay men while they were dying when no one else would. They were the ones who sort of led that movement, and so a lot of that's been lost because those conversations happened between two people, and one of those people didn't survive, and one of those people wasn't given a platform to speak.
Actually, I'm writing 3 pieces, 2 short films I did last semester, which are I think 12 to 15 pages. One is called The Reunion, and the other one is called Bear Me Fa. Both are inspired by my grandma, but 2 different family stories. And currently I'm developing my first feature film, which is called Lotus Roots. It's also a family road trip in China, and quite trying to be by grieving the whole grieving trip into family coming back together, which is something I really want to kind of eventually, hopefully, to make it into a feature film.
We've got a couple of works in progress still, but I've completed a short film. It was kind of like a surreal comedy about Bigfoot, but having a human girlfriend and parents coming to stay for the weekend. So I don't know where that came from, but that was just something I thought it seemed like quite a funny idea. So yeah, I went with it. I think it turned out okay.
I'd say because I did film school before this course in the US, and my writing was more I did pretty much pretty films before, and I think before that I would be more visualized writing. I would be I want this to be really pretty. I just keep writing people being in pretty dress, they're in pretty locations. That's my kind of thing, because I was if it's not pretty, why do I film this thing, right? But I think since I came here, people just have been starting to talk about humanity and characters and conflicts. So even though I know it before, I know like, oh, you have to have a structure, you have to have a thing. I wasn't writing these on the page, and I was just purely into like, you know, visualizing everything. But now I think after this course, I kind of push myself into writing more detail about why this person is doing, why this dialogue is happening.
I think I've learned to focus a lot more on actually telling the story and finding the nuances of the character rather than kind of focusing on aesthetic as much as I might have done previously. It's still a big part of screenwriting, obviously, but just focusing more on what actually needs to happen on screen, and also developing the characters fully rather than making it look nice on the page. I think is definitely the biggest improvement, and the stories are a lot more coherent now than when I was just writing kind of free without the course.
So the main way I think my writing has changed is that the course has given me the chance to go very in depth into structure and the composition of writing. From coming from a theatre background, and particularly, so my previous course was theatre and performance studies, there's a lot more kind of it was a very fluid approach, whereas I think particularly when you're writing for television, slightly less so with film, it needs to be formulaic in order to hit the points to make people come back and watch, or to get people in, you know, bums in seats basically.
We had the lad who actually did the course, and he gave us a talk. He's a storyliner with Dale now, and he come in and give us a talk kind of about how it works working on a TV show like continuing drama, and yeah, gave a good insight into what an actual like working day would look like in that sort of entry level kind of role, and also the money you'd expect to make and that sort of thing, which is obviously a consideration. So that I think was probably the most beneficial that I've had so far. Because it was actually, you know, telling us what a first job might look like in this sort of field.
We have been like quite some like speakers coming to the course, especially with Jonathan's class. We had producers coming to the course to introduce like their roles in production companies in the north here, and also we were introduced to like different opportunities from the course, and especially like there are Hollyoaks where I think we're going actually to a trip next week to the Hollyoaks TV set in Liverpool, and these are like really good opportunities from the school and the course, and we are also really generally like introduced to film festivals, which we are really encouraged to go and talk to people from our industry.
So what's been really useful about the course is that the two people who run it, Jonathan and Tim, both have careers and long-standing careers in their respective TV and film realms, and that means that their approach is one, incredibly informed, and two, incredibly honest, which is very refreshing. I think in previous career endeavours, I've sort of lacked that direction and leadership about where do I need to go and what do I need to do. Whereas here it's very much, if you want a career in television, these are the routes in. If you want a career in film, these are the routes in. This is the standard your work needs to be, and this is what you need to be hitting in order to get there.